Hi. So we have looked at testing our HTML contents as well. So we kind of took a native element in the last video, and we checked on the paragraph as well. But we haven't so far looked at one thing here, which is the async flows. So async is being kind of imported right here, and you notice before each it just does something asynchronously. Now, what if we have a situation where we'll need to use the async services? So I'm just going to go down to this terminal right here and just browse down to the directory. And I'd like to create a service right here, which I'll just like to call it as a possibly a ng generate a service, and the name of the service is going to be, let's consider data service. Maybe I'll just make it like data. So this is going to generate a component, and in this particular service, I'm going to write an async method that's going to really do an asynchronous job. So I mean, this is not required, of course. I'll just write here any method right here. For example, fetch data, and fetch data is going to return me a promise, and I mean I can just choose any type of promises of now. And then I'm going to write the definition of the method, which is going to create a constant return promise to be new promise object, and then the promise object really contains the the resolve and reject and the ES6 set function to create a function right here, and then I'll here kind of return the return promise object from here. So once this is done, right, I'm going to be using the resolve, and I mean, since this is to be done asynchronously, like I'll just like to resolve it to, let's consider data. That's all. So this clearly returns me a promise, and I just wanted to use the promise in my application. But remember, the promises are always going to be async, right? Now to use this, of course, the module entry should have been done, and I can go to the component where I want to use it, maybe right here. And apart from using the user service, I'll also inject the I mean, you might just choose it like private also, and I'll make it as data service of type data service. And I mean, I don't really need the providers right here because they're already created at a module level. Hopefully, it's not. So I'll just go ahead and do that as well. Go to the TS, and I'll import the data service from here. So this is the setup, and possibly on ng on it, I'm going to use here a data property called string, which is blank to start with. But then I'm going to type in here this dot data service dot fetch the data, and since it returns me a promise, right, I'll just issue a dot then statement, which should really get us the data right here. And so it's going to be this dot data as the data right here. So this is how we kind of fetch the data and do it right here. Now let's just kind of create the test case for it, and I mean our test cases are already running right here, but let me just make you see this in the testing part on how you're going to do this. So maybe what I'm going to do is right over here I'm going to use this fixture code, possibly copy this, and I'm going to make it like testing async service. Async service method, right? Now in this case, of course, the service that I'm going to use right here, this is going to become data service. So I'm going to change that, and let's do it. So I'm going to make this as uh, data service of type data service. Now, what I really don't expect is testing async method. Don't expect this to pass with async flows is what I'm trying to say. Don't. Okay. And data service, and then we'll be using here data service. Right. If the import is missing, I'll just provide the import. And the next thing that I'm going to do right here is, so I'm going to write some code to produce me a fake object of the data service. So, with testing environments, we don't really, give the real results back. I mean, as of now, the data service is kind of returning something, but we'll fake that up, or what we also refer to as mock. So we'll be using a mock method right here. I'll call it spy on. Now that's kind of a function, and what it really does is it takes the object and the method name as well. So I'm going to specify the name of the data service to be, this is the data service object. This is what it needs, and the next thing that I'm going to specify is the method that I've used here in the component. So that method name is going to be this method name, which is fetch data. So I'm going to copy this and paste it here into the spec. So what I'm saying is spy on this, and then dot n, then return a value, and this is how mocking really works. And I'm going to write here promise dot resolve, just give us the data back. So the actual method is doing it, but we are not going to do the actual stuff right here. We'll just kind of say let the spy is this, and this is going to just mock the values, not the real call, but it's going to, once this is called, this fetch data service is called, it's going to return a value like this. Right, now the next thing of course that we need to do is, after this has been done, and we've done it so many other times as well, we just kind of need to do a fixture.detect changes, isn't it? So that these changes are always kind of detected once you run this. So let's do this. So fixture.detect changes, and put it here. So service has done something, and the component should have been updated. And then I'm going to do the next change. I'm expecting the component dot data property, which is here, to be equal to, and I mean, even if I've done it right here, right, I'll still not expect the values to be, just type in here to be, and I'll just make it undefined. I'll tell you why, because see, I expect, since this is an asynchronous code, right, asynchronous code will not just return the value just then itself, right? There might be a time delay. I mean, I can introduce the time delay right here, and let's see what's gone wrong. Expect this to be undefined. So the last test case has really failed, and I say Sing doesn't really expect this to pass. It has failed, but I think not for the reasons that I expected. So it says expect this to be undefined. Okay, so as of now, the data property is just lying, like blank, and maybe I just had to go down to the component right here, and we'll not just use a blank right here, right? We'll just make it like this, so that it's undefined to start with. And let's see the results. So you notice it's actually returning us an undefined value, right? The test cases have passed now, and all the 11 test cases have passed. The last one also shows we don't really expect this to pass. Now, so the point is, like, how do we really check the value of the data to become what is being passed from here, which is the data. Now to do this, you'll have to make a little change right here, and I'll just use a method right here, fixture dot, okay, not even this. We'll have to wrap this around with an async call. So I'll just use async and wrap this method around this right here. Now let's see. I mean, I'm running it in async now, and I still get the undefined value, and because of the reason that, I mean, it's still not yet stable. See, I mean, this particular method can take some time because we have got a data service, and it's a promise object, right? Consider HTTP calls. I mean, the server is busy and it takes some time. I can induce some delay right here itself. So I might just use a method called set timeout and just use an arrow function. And maybe I just wanted to do it after a delay of 2 seconds, right? And this can happen in the real world. I mean, I'm just kind of simulating this, but this can really happen in the real world as well. So you'll have to just wait, and you notice, I mean, the test cases are just run then itself, and it's going to return us an undefined value. Now I'm going to just do what is needed right here. So I'll just go here, and I'll just type in here fixture dot when stable dot then statement, and in the then statement, then I'm going to write the code right here. So I'm just kind of waiting for the changes to get stable, and then I'm going to move this over here and expect the component data to then become what is being passed from there itself. So let's just make it data. Now, even if it takes 2 seconds, right? Let's wait for the text to complete. Now you notice it's going to take a slightly longer, and then we have the values after 2 seconds, and it still is data right here. So async is kind of a special method right here when you wanted to test your async functionalities. Remember, the function that I've really done right here is the fetch data function is returning a value data, right? And this kind of a spy, or what we also call it as this is called mocking. So mocking as a library is kind of built in, and you can use the the spy function directly over here. And once you kind of mock, you return a value, and you're just testing on the component value to be data after a while. So that's about async. I think that's it for the video, and I'll see you in the next one.